This training video is to show you how to review an incident. This is concerning anybody who's doing a review. It could be an officer reviewing their own report, it could be a training officer, supervisor, lead officer that's reviewing somebody else's report. So as soon as you log into Perspective, you go directly to your dashboard. You're going to click on Report Forms, and in your saved views, you should have, as a supervisor, a list or a quick view of all the reports that are pending that are at level 3 or below. Once you get that list to populate, you're going to start from the bottom of that list to the top. You're going to go one by one, and you're going to figure out if the report is yours to review. Meaning, if it's in your building, in your location, if you're a supervisor at UMH, you're not going to be reviewing a report that was written in Rosensteel, for example. If you're a supervisor at Lennar, you're not going to be reviewing a report that happened at UMH. You may or may not, depending on the situation, but usually you're not. So the first thing you're going to check to see if it's somebody that worked in your building, in your shift. So you're going to check the date and time. And if you still can't figure out if it's yours to review, you're going to go to controls and you're going to check to see if that officer works for you. It could be an officer that's doing overtime or special detail. So just because this officer usually works, as an example, in the midnight shift, he's written a report and it was on the midnight shift, but let's say this officer then worked in the afternoon and this time shows that it was at a different time. You as a supervisor may not know that this report was yours because it's usually not at your time or your shift. So just make sure you check the date, time, the building, and the officer, the record owner. You're going to go one by one and you're going to review the incident. For this training purpose, we're going to review a training report that we created. So when you click on the report and you know that this is yours to review, first things you're going to check is on the General tab. You're going to check on the date and time when this incident actually happened. So just because they told me today at 4:55 does not mean that it started at 4:55. Again, it could have been a theft. So they told me, hey, they stole my purse yesterday. So the victim came to the officer and the lady says, they stole my purse yesterday at 12 p.m. Then make sure you click on edit and make sure that that date and time is there. The incident did not happen right now as they told us that the purse was stolen. It happened yesterday at 12. So make sure that the incident start, incident end time. So if it was stolen yesterday at 12, the victim might tell you it was anywhere time between 12 and 1 p.m. during my lunch break. So you're not going to put the same date for all of them. You're going to put the incident start time. This is the time. This time right here is the time that they told you about the situation. This is the time the situation could have started. And this is the time that the situation or incident ended. If you're not sure, then at least this time could be the same as this one. But for an example, a vehicle accident. You were dispatched to a vehicle accident. You arrived at 4:55 a.m., but the vehicle accident happened before, so it cannot be the same time. Again, make sure those times are correct because these are very important for investigation purposes. You're also going to make sure as a reviewer that the classification is correct. If you see and you read the report, you need the right narrative, and you're reading that somebody fell, make sure you change it to the proper classification. There are too many times that the classification of the incident is wrong. It's okay if it's wrong, we can always change it, but as a reviewer, you should be able to control and you should be able to change that classification. Make sure the campus is full, is filled, the building, the exact location, the floor, and the specific location. If there is an injury and it's a 945F, for example, or a 921, you have to scroll down and make sure that the injury flag says yes. The default is unknown, but if you have, for an example, in the narrative they write they had a bruise, then it's definitely an injury. If you see that in the narrative it says they had a cut, they had some type of bleeding or anything that shows that they had an injury, you put that flag as yes. If you're not sure, then it's unknown. They may not have a bruise. They may not even know that they're injured. So you can state that in the narrative. So once you verify your general tab, you're going to go to the involvements tab. You're going to make sure that if they have a victim, if they have a suspect, it is listed as such. You're also going to make sure that we have phone numbers. If we are able to, we should get a cell phone number, a home number, and an office number. For example, if it's an employee. If it's an employee and you only get the office number or the landline number, then the investigator can only get a hold of that person during working hours. And sometimes they need to get a hold of them after work. So if you're able to, once again, make sure you put cell phone number, home number, and landline. The other reason you may need to get other numbers is, for an example, they stole my cell phone number, or my cell phone, I'm sorry. I'm not going to give you my cell phone number because I don't have my cell phone, it was stolen. So that's why you need extra phone numbers. You want to make sure that you list anything that is applicable. So if they were arrested by police, you can have that there. Just make sure that as a supervisor, you are able to see all of these things that should be included in the report. The organizations that they're there. An example, City of Miami Police Department. Here's where the case number goes. Here's where the alarm number goes. Here's where the work order number goes. It does go in the narrative, but if you're a supervisor, you should be checking that every 946 has a work order, and that work order should be here. If it's not here, it's going to be sent back for the supervisor to go and make sure that it is placed in the proper section. You're going to make sure that all the vehicles are listed, any items that are listed. Items are very important, especially when it's theft. You want to make sure that you include the value. If you don't include the value, you definitely got to have some type of note, some type of statement that says that the value is unknown. And it is not unknown because we didn't ask for it. It is unknown because the owner does not know the value. The owner may tell you, they stole my ring. I don't know the value. It was a gift to me. It had sentimental value. I don't know the actual value. So then you put that. You write that in your notes, in your narrative, and you state that the owner or the victim does not know the value. It has sentimental value, or that it was a gift to them, so they don't know the value. So if we're going to classify it as a 911, or we're going to classify it as a 912, we need to know the value. Just because we don't know does not mean that we're going to classify it as a 912. It could have been $100. So you have to ask. And again, if you ask and they tell you they don't know the value, you put that there. When you're checking the narrative and you're verifying that everything is in there, you need to make sure that you see the date, the time. So in other words, the report should say something like on whatever date it is, whatever time it is. For example, I wrote this with a couple of mistakes on purpose so that you guys can understand. It cannot be 1500 p.m. It is 3 p.m. If it is 1500, it is 1500 hours. It is not 1500 p.m. So make sure that if you are going to write military time, you follow military time. If you're going to write AM, PM, then make sure that you don't put 1500 or 2200 p.m. So once you get to this area and you verify that the who, the what, the when, the where, the why, and the how is all included, as a reviewer, you should be able to use a different app to help you check for all the little mistakes. I know you can see the little red squiggly line underneath some of these. I did these on purpose so that you can see that it's telling you that there's some type of mistake. It might be a spelling mistake, it might be something else. But the best app that you can use, and there's going to be a different training video for this app. It's a free app that all officers and all reviewers will be using. You're going to copy the whole thing. You're going to right click it. You're going to copy it. You're going to open up this app. Like down here, this G is called Grammarly. It's going to take a few seconds for it to open. When it opens, you're going to have this section again. I'm going to do a training video on how to download it and how to install it. And everybody should get one of these apps. This is going to save you from making embarrassing mistakes. You're going to click on New. You can't right click and paste, but it tells you type it or paste it. How do you paste it? Control V. I'm right clicking and it doesn't give me a menu, but it's telling you right there. You press Control V in your keyboard and it pastes the same thing that you had in your narrative. So right here it's checking for all kinds of mistakes for you. So it sees this word and it's telling you, is it supposed to be sidewalk or maybe side? You know it's supposed to be sidewalk. Click on sidewalk and it changed it for you. So the next mistake that it sees is the RMSB. In the RMSB briefing room. So it's telling you that you're missing the word the. You click on that and it adds it for you. And again, you go to this word right here. It's telling you that there's a mistake and it's telling you what it should be. It changed it for you. Then you come here, you select the whole thing. Since you can't use your mouse, you can use Control C to copy everything. You go back to your narrative and you put Control V as in Victor and it pastes with all the mistakes that have been corrected. So again, it is in the briefing room. I changed that. Briefing is spelled properly now. So now you can delete whatever was wrong and you leave the report written in a proper manner. As a reviewer, you're responsible to check all kinds of mistakes in these reports. You're going to make sure that all the pictures are attached. However many pictures are needed, however many pictures are there, you're going to need to verify that they're there. If there are no pictures, you need to, as a reviewer, verify that the narrative says maybe that the victim refused to have pictures taken. I couldn't take a picture because the person was being arrested and got taken away by PD. Explain why you did not take a picture. It doesn't mean that it's okay that you didn't take a picture, but you at least need to explain why you didn't take a picture. Once you're done with your checking and verifying that everything is correct, you're going to do the Control tab. You're going to hit the review, and here's where you're going to create your own review. As an officer, you're going to click Add New, and you're going to choose Officer Author Review. In other words, I am the author and I am the officer, and I'm going to review my own report. You're going to select the date and time, whatever time it may have been. You can change it. This is just an example. So you can write any comment there if you have any comments. If you are, or when you are reviewing and you're adding your review here, you're stating and you're clarifying that you reviewed your own report or you reviewed somebody else's report. So if you're stating that you reviewed your own report, you're actually stating that you know that everything is in there. So before you finish this, you should go back into every tab and verify, am I missing something? Did I put all the information required? Am I going to get this report sent back to me? Because if you get this report back to correct some items, that means that your review was not complete. As a supervisor, you're going to add your own review. Every supervisor that's reviewing should be adding their own review, and it's the number 3 here, supervisor review modification. In other words, you're going to modify it. You're going to change the classification. You're going to change whatever needs to be changed except the narrative. The narrative, if it's something that it's a misspell, you can change, you can adjust, you can edit, but you're not going to change what the person that wrote the narrative is trying to say. So if you need to make those kind of changes, you want the person who wrote the report to be able to correct those mistakes. Once as a supervisor, you sign and you review it, it means that you're telling the next person that you reviewed it and that you know that this report was done properly. So if it's not done properly and I send it back to you, you know that your review was not proper. So every supervisor, when you review an incident and you raise it to a level 5, you gotta put your signature that you reviewed it. Even if you don't, we can still know what supervisor, what person reviewed it. So it's still gonna go back to that person, but the review must be signed by everybody who reviews these incidents. Once you're done with your review, you're gonna go to the details. As a officer, it would have been at level 2. So once you reviewed it and you did everything you had to do, you're going to raise it to a level 5 so that the supervisor can review it, and you're going to click on save. Once you click on save, it is at a level 3. Just because you see it and you can see everything you've done does not mean you can make any changes now. Once you raise it to a level 3, you can't make any changes. If you need to make changes because you realize you made a mistake or you have more information to add, you need to contact your supervisor. They need to drop it down to a level 2. Once they drop it down to a level 2, you can get back into this report and add maybe any notes, any extras that you found out. Maybe it was a theft, and then the victim calls you back and says, "Oh, by the way, I found it in my car. It was a mistake. It wasn't a theft. I actually had the item." So now you can go back and change the theft classification to a 932R. They actually recovered and they actually found their own item. It happens quite a bit, so it is not a theft anymore. They actually found it. Once you fix any mistakes, you got to go back, raise it to a level 3, and save it so that your supervisor can review it again. And as a supervisor, once you review and once you assign it, you must raise it to a level 5 and save it. Once you raise it to a level 5, it'll come off your queue as pending incidents, and whoever reviews it at a level 5 and they find mistakes will have to do the same thing. They will have to lower it to a supervisor so that the supervisor can review it again and send it to the next person. As a supervisor, as a reviewer, if you know there are mistakes, you're going to need to create an assignment. This will be done at another video, but the assignment basically tells someone that there's something pending. So as a supervisor, you send it back to your officer who wrote the report and had mistakes or had pictures missing, and you're going to make an assignment and you're going to tell them where are the pictures, what's the floor wet, what type of shoes were they wearing, what time did this happen, whatever information is needed. You must make sure that the officer completes the assignment and as soon as possible, raise it to a level 5. This will avoid delays in the distribution of this report. Some of these reports are very important. They need to go to a lot of administration people, and they need to know as soon as possible, especially if there might be a lawsuit coming. So these reports have to be completed properly, accurately, and as soon as possible.